Up. I guess you could not hear me. Okay. Let's see. Can everyone hear me all right? Put this tab so I can look at you all. Let's give it one more minute just of pausing so I can hear some responses from the audience, just to make sure that there are some other folks on the other end of the screen. All right, folks, let's try that again. I see Silver Alcid can hear. So that means we're good to go. Awesome work, everybody, getting yourselves here for the stream. I think it's going to be really worth it. We're going to learn about the serverless framework, and hopefully it will also help you just generally get some more knowledge on how servers work, how HTTP requests work. And yeah, maybe you'll walk away learning at least one new thing that you can take along with you. And then another response from Assassin Souls. I can hear you. Great. Glad to hear that there are folks out there who can hear me. So without further ado, we're going to start our presentation. And let me share my screen so that I can do that for you. Let's see here. Having a quick difficulty here with the stream. Just give me 1 minute here to fix this. All right, that should be fixed now. Yeah, hopefully you all can see me still. Sorry about that. I had to switch browsers because the old browser wasn't working properly. Okay, so let's go ahead and share this presentation. And yeah, so today what we're going to be talking about is an introduction to serverless computing. So has anybody in the audience heard of serverless computing before? AWS is one. AWS Lambda is one. That's a great example of serverless computing. So yeah, basically that will be our topic today. And before we get into it, I just want to introduce myself. So my name is Stephen. I have been a coach for almost 10 years now. And I'm really excited for my debut at Cloud Week. I've never been here for Cloud Week, at least not for a long time, but this is my debut for this week. So I'm excited for that. And then don't forget to check in also. I'm going to put this check-in link into the chat so that you all can see it. And yes, a CoStub Sing, it's visible. Your text is visible. So if you have any questions or chats, feel free to send them along. And Inchiji says, I'm new, so welcome. Great to have you here. But yeah, just don't forget to check in. There's two reasons actually why we love it when you all check in. The first is that we want to see what kinds of content y'all are interested in at Global Hack Week, and make sure that we're producing stuff that you actually want to see. And then the second reason is that we want to make sure that you all get your swag. So there's special swag that we send to people who go to enough events, and checking in is the way that you prove it to us that you were there. Okay, and then Saketh says, I want to see more AI content. That's great, and actually we have plenty of room for feedback like that. I'm going to show you where you can post feedback like that. It's called mlh.link/GHW feedback. So if you're thinking, oh, I'd rather see, this is Cloud Week, but I'd rather see more AI. I'd rather see 2 AI weeks, not just one. Send it to us in our feedback form. We would love to hear from you. But yeah, so just to give you a few icebreaker questions before we begin, I wanted to ask, have you written any serverless functions before? That's the first question. And the second question is, type in chat, what is your favorite cloud provider? And just to give you an example, one of the cloud providers is AWS. One of them is Google Cloud. One is Azure. So just tell us about some of your answers to these questions. And so one question here is, while we're waiting for those icebreakers to come in, I know this is not the most relevant question, but will we be seeing any computer architecture related Global Hack Week in the future? That's a great question, and we can talk about that in the future. But really, the best way to make sure that such things happen is to fill out our feedback form. So I sent that one more time. I would love to hear that feedback. I'm sure our team would, that we should have some computer architecture related streams. Okay, so to answer the first question, have you written any serverless functions before? I see one answer, no. And another one, have yet to have a good use for serverless. Yeah, it can be tricky. And then I've played around with AWS Lambda, and right now I'm working on a project using Supabase for the first time. Cool. Those are awesome use cases. And then I will just go ahead now and the next one, just type in your chat your favorite cloud provider. So we have, as he says, AWS, GDR, as he says, Azure, and Google Cloud Platform. Yeah, Google Cloud is great. And one of the good things about this serverless framework is that we can actually support all of these cloud providers. So any of them we can use. And then a question here, will I be eligible for the MLH Fellowship after the event? So no, this event doesn't have any determination for your eligibility. You're probably already eligible, to be honest, to apply. But you have to submit an application for that program, and I can send you the link below to our website. So here's our website to apply. And from there, we can determine your eligibility. GDR says, serverless is built into cloud providers. No? Yeah, it is. That's why some folks are talking about AWS Lambda, which is a service that lets developers run code, automatically runs code in response to some events, and scales cloud resources based on what you might need. So that's a great example. Okay, so yeah, so So just that's a great question to get us transitioning into what is serverless computing. It means writing code without managing servers. So you don't have to rent a server and divvy up its resources to run your program or run your web app. It will all be handled in the back end. And some of the benefits are the scalability of this. So it will only use resources when you need them. Cost efficiency, right? Because using less resources then will mean that you get to save more of your money. And finally, faster iteration. And what I mean by that is you can try out something, just test something out for deployment using serverless computing. And then maybe if it does scale to a point where you need to invest in some server, then you can do that. But yeah, those are some of the benefits. And what benefit do you think would work most for your work, do you think? Well, that's a question to you all in the chat. I know some of you are already working around with these things. Like Silver also mentioned that. So yeah. Okay, here's another question while we wait. I have participated in at least one MLH hackathon or global hack week event. Oh, okay. Yeah, that could be useful for us to make an admissions to have just information, but it probably doesn't have any bearing on your application, and it definitely doesn't mean that you're eligible. I mean, you're eligible without doing that, as far as I know. But great question. All right, so let's move on to the next slide here. So what we're going to do is actually start by creating an environment, okay? And we're going to make a new Conda environment, which is what we call a virtual environment, meaning that we're going to create some virtual space where we can download our necessary dependencies. Now, this step is not strictly needed. If you don't have Conda in your computer, don't worry about it, but I just want to let you know that everything we download, all the packages we install, including the serverless, the dependencies needed for serverless, they're going to then live on your main Python directory. So I like to use Conda as a way to make sure to isolate those installations and make sure they don't interfere with anything else. Okay, and if you're interested in downloading Conda, which I do recommend, I will show you how to do that. So I'm going to send a link, and it's actually going to be a link for mini Conda, or I guess I'll just send the link for Anaconda in general. And if you want, you can use VENV. That's totally okay. That's a question from MGG. VENV works in a really similar way to Conda. So if you know the commands through VENV, that's totally fine. But let's go ahead and do this. So I'm gonna present to you all my terminal. We'll open up a terminal. All right. Where are you, terminal? Let's see. There it is. Okay. Got my terminal going. Hopefully you all can see. But yeah, so we're going to be, okay, that's a little better. Not as blurry. Goodness gracious, that was a little blurry. All right, so we're going to be taking a look at this, and we can type in these commands. So the first command was conda create name cloud week Python equals 3.10. And I'm actually going to call this GHW cloud week. And I'll copy that command into the chat. to just show you what we're doing right now. We're doing this to install a Python distribution into this virtual environment. And so when I run that code into my terminal, it's solving the environment, and it will install several packages into this environment that are necessary for running, most Conda projects. So we will type yes to proceed with installing these default packages. And once we do, it prepares that to happen, executes that, and now it's installed. So to use this new environment, then we can actually type conda activate and then the name of this virtual environment. So we'll type GHW Cloud Week and then push enter. And now that we've pushed enter, you can see on the left-hand side here that we have GHW Cloud Week instead of base. And what that means is that we're now in a new environment where anything we install here is not going to mess with the rest of our program, or with the rest of our computer. Sorry. So that's a great thing to do when you're starting out with your code. Okay. One question here. For some reason, I'm not able to add my phone number on Discord with the MLH server. I keep getting the message that my phone number is invalid, so I'm not able to interact in the chat rooms. Okay, so are you able to access the following channel? I'll put it in the chat. It's called #support_ticket. Let me know if you're able to interact in that channel. Maya, because that's going to really be good, because you could submit some kind of support ticket and they can help you through your issue. Okay, Silverhouse says, if you're using a virtual phone number like Google, it may be an issue. That's good troubleshooting there. Thanks for that. It could be. So, all right, we can't access that. So then I'm going to ask you to email us at hi@mlh.io and we can debug that with you. Just make sure to send us a screenshot of what's happening. And the other thing you could do is contact Discord support. They might be able to help with this too. But chances are we've seen this issue before. So go ahead and reach out to MLH through hi@mlh.io. Okay, so all right, back to our regularly scheduled programming here. I'm gonna share my screen again, and this time I'm gonna go past this downloading bit here. Let's see. All right, so we already got through our activation of this environment. Now it's time for us to do our installations. So the first installation we'll do, and actually I guess this is the only one that we use Conda for, is Node.js and NPM, which if you don't know, NPM stands for Node Package Manager. And it's actually an installer for the Node.js framework. So we're going to install that. There's another question: would venv work? Yes, it would. So let me actually get you the venv code. I think I have it right up in my notes. I should. Let's see here. All right, so the venv way to do venv is you can just use this code that MTG wrote, Python mvenv.env .venv, and then you would type this command, and then I'll send the installer for node.js in pip. So you follow this command to install Node.js using pip. Now, what you need to do with venv, which is a little bit different than conda, is make sure that you have the dependencies that you'll need for node.js. So there is a PyPy for this with some documentation. I'll just send you the GitHub for that so that you can see if there's any dependencies that you might need to install. All right, so I'm going to go and try this in our code, or in our terminal. So I'm going to open up our terminal again. And I'm going to type in exactly what we had in our slides. So it's going to be conda install -c conda forge, which is the channel for installing Node.js. And then we'll just type Node.js so that people know that we're installing that package. And it's going to take a little while. Actually, it's kind of on the bigger side of things. But luckily, we don't have that many things installed right now, so it's not going to conflict with anything because there's nothing to conflict with. So we're good to go there. We've got that running. And now to double check that the node package installed, we can use node -v, which tells us the version of node that we're using, which is great. And then I'll also do npm v just because this tells us the version of node package manager. Uh-oh. That did not work. Maybe we need to install that separately. Let's try it. Or maybe we just need to do it together. Okay, yeah, I guess I just needed to do them together. So you can see the terminal command that I did. Node v and npm v, and I'll send that out into the chat too, so you can copy it on your terminal. But you can see here that yeah, we got some versions back. So that indicates to us that these two different packages, Node and npm, are correctly installed in our system. Okay, so let's keep going then. Back to our, so now the next step is to install the serverless framework. And this is really key. This is what most of the workshop is about, is this framework called serverless. And I've sent the command in the chat too. The really important thing is that you specify the version, okay? Because recently serverless came out with version 4. But the problem with version 4 is it's kind of hard to use in a free way. They want you to set up a license, and they want you to give them your credit card to connect that. Even if you're not trying to do anything, I couldn't really figure out how to get the offline version working. So I know how it works with this version. So I'm just going to use 3.40.0. Okay. So let's go back into our terminal and get this working. So there we go. We type into our terminal npm install -g serverless, and then this command is forcing the version of serverless to install. And then we hit enter, and enter will start our installation here. It takes a little bit of time. You can see it thinking a little bit. It's hard at work thinking. Okay, so it's done. And then it does say 131 packages are looking for funding. And at first I was like, what the heck? But what that means is that those packages probably require you to use your credit card through serverless because they could theoretically connect you into any project architecture you need, like AWS or Google Cloud servers. So let's just skip that warning. You can ignore this warning at the end over here. Okay, it's not necessary to worry about. All right, so we've gotten through our environment check now, and it's on to the project scaffold. So project scaffold is basically how we do this. Sorry, it's the scaffold is how we get a basic idea around the project. So it's kind of an automated process that will just create all of the relevant files. And yeah, let me just see. I think I might have an issue here. Okay, it's in the command. So I actually want you to use this command, which I think should work. So this slide is actually from the from version 4. It might work, but I want you to try this this one. So if you type just serverless, if you just type serverless, it will probably give you something. It gives you this this great scheduler thing. But actually, I think if we just use the command that I sent, which is serverless create, and then the template we'll use is AWS Node.js. So you could use the one here too, the AWS Node.js starter or not. But another reason I wanted to use this is because it specifies the path. So it says hello dash serverless. So let's just see if this command can work for us. So then we don't have to deal with the UI. So we run this command, and it's going to set up a new project for us. And that's really great. So I'm going to actually cd into that directory, which is called hello serverless. And then I'm going to use pwd. So let me copy these commands into the chat for you all so you can copy those if you want to. But I'm typing cd hello-serverless to get into that directory. And then I'm typing pwd, which gives me the primary working directory. So here it is. It's created on my working directory here in my user folder. And we are going to now navigate here using our Visual Studio Code. So if you've never used Visual Studio Code, let me show you how to get that. So basically, it's a great code editor that you can use to edit your serverless functions and your serverless application. So you're going to download it using code.visualstudio.com, and it'll tell you exactly which one you need. So just navigate to that website to get your Visual Studio Code up and running. But I'm not going to stay over here too long because I am going to assume that a lot of you already have some way of editing code. But if you don't, feel free to pause this video if you're on YouTube and come back when you have this downloaded, basically. All right. So I'm going to open up a new VS Code window. Okay. Put it on my computer here. All right. And present that screen. Oh. Is that right? Yeah, it is. Great. I'll probably put it on another monitor. I think the problem is that the monitor's resolution is not great. Okay, hopefully that's a little bit better. All right, yeah, it looks okay, I think. Not sure we're going to be able to get any better than that, but we have our serverless features, and I'm going to look first at git ignore. So this is an important file to think about here. So git ignore is telling you which files in the directories that you don't want to upload to GitHub if we were to upload this project to GitHub. So the first one, of course, is node modules. Second one is JSPM packages, and because these are where we get our package directories. So we don't want to upload our directories. That's kind of useless to other people in GitHub. And then this is our serverless directories. Okay, and we could also eventually have some env file where we have a API key for, you know, when we're putting stuff on servers and things like that. But for now, we'll just keep it this way. And then handler.js is basically our hello world function. So let me zoom into this a little bit for you. I hope that zoomed in a little bit. Make your eyes feel a little bit better. But the hello world function is here. So we have, you know, async. So async means that the function is going to wait for a response from the server before continuing. So before it returns. So here it's going to ping, and it's going to send a status code 200. So in HTTP responses, you can send a status code. And then it will also send a body in the response. And the body will be this JSON output. So we use JSON stringify, which just creates a JSON out of a string. And so these are our message, okay? So the message is go serverless. I don't know why it says V1, but that's okay. Mine said V3, I think, but you can see the input would be then the event. So there could be some event that causes this, and we would input. We would have that as part of our body as well. Okay. So now that we've got that going, we're going to continue. It looks like Ajax is here. Hi there, Ajax. I haven't seen you in a little while, so good to see you. I often goof up and generally select the wrong VS Code kernel. Yeah, me too. In fact, let me just make sure that that's a great thing to remember. So let me just check my terminal code here. And I want to make sure that we're going to be inside of our correct environment. So we can use conda activate GHW Cloud Week to make sure that our terminal is in the same environment as we're trying to be in here for our serverless project. So perfect timing on that suggestion there. All right. Well, we've created our project scaffold, and it's time to keep going. And we're gonna look at this example handler.js, which we just looked at. Yeah, if you want, why don't you try to change that greeting text to a hello serverless world? Okay, that could be your first code edit here. So if we do that, hello, let's say hello, comma, serverless world. All right, and we can save that using Command S or Control S. And now the handler is saved. So we should hopefully get some customization out of that. And which property is setting the HTTP status code? I guess, honestly, I already gave the answer away to this one, but it's this status code key here, 200. All right, so we can send all kinds of status codes. Maybe you've seen 404 error not found. I don't know if you've seen that. We actually have a user in our community who goes by this name. Not to call anyone out, but that's an example of an HTTP status code. And in that case, it means they couldn't find whatever you were looking for. So, all right, well, why don't we check in now with our code? Oh, sorry, with our next thing here. So I wanna just call out something, and that's the get a license option. So if you start up your serverless and it tells you that you have to log in or you have to get a license, this is bad news. I mean, it's not really bad news, but I just want to tell you this because it means you have version 4, and version 4 requires you to log in, and they're going to prompt you for things like your credit card and things like that. So if you're seeing this, just make sure that you run the following command in your terminal. Okay, serverless 3.40.0, because that'll direct you to the original or the version that we're using today, which doesn't require this license thing. All right, so just wanted to give that as a quick PSA to those of you out there who are following along. But yeah, all of our workshops pretty much are going to be free. So try not to pay for anything. Yeah. Okay, so let's keep going here. And the next step is this free step, which I mentioned. It's adding the offline plugin, okay, which is called Serverless, Serverless Offline. And then we're going to do a little code activity as well, where we add this to our YML file, and we'll investigate that, because that is one file we didn't actually look at yet. We only looked at our handler.js and our git ignore. So let's go ahead and install this, and we're going to install, we're going to use our terminal. Okay, so going back to our terminal, we are gonna, I guess we could do this in our VS Code as well. So if you want to just go to your VS Code instead, that's totally acceptable. But I guess now that we're already here in our terminal, why don't we just do this in terminal? So yeah, the command is called npm install serverless offline. Okay, so we'll do npm install serverless offline. Okay, and that should hopefully get us where we want to go. The other thing we wrote was save dev. This is just to put everything in dev mode. So let's just keep that flag there so that we have it. I'm gonna copy this command into the stream so that you all can follow along from home or your office or wherever you are. I guess I don't know exactly where you are, but just assuming that you're somewhere comfy like at home. All right, and so that is the command for serverless offline. And we are going to do another code activity here, as I called it, which is editing serverless.yml. And that we're going to need our VS Code for, because it's actually a code change. So we're going to go into our Hello Serverless project folder in VS Code, and we're going to check out this file that we didn't look at yet called serverless.yml. We open it up. You can see they give us all this great information. And yeah, the service is listed as hello serverless. The framework version is listed. You can tell YML or a YAML file is really similar to a JSON file in the sense that it has key value pairs here. But unlike JSON, the YAML files typically use indentation instead of commas and things like that in order to you can make sub levels for your information. So it's just a little bit more advanced than a JSON output. But the provider, so we told this project that we were going to run Node.js framework and we were going to deploy to AWS, which is the Amazon cloud service. But we could actually change this to whatever cloud provider we want, whatever framework we want, as long as it's available within serverless. So you saw that that message we got earlier telling us all of the different frameworks that are possible. So now we want to look at these a little bit in detail. We have functions, hello handler. That's our handler.js. And yeah, we're going to be checking this out a little bit. We want to make sure we put in plugins though. So I think we don't have plugins here. So let's just make a new line here below functions. And we'll put plugins. And we're going to write serverless offline. And then we're going to save. Okay. And actually, this should have a dash because the plugin is called serverless dash offline. All right. And so now this is just telling our deployment that it should use serverless offline, which lets us avoid all those pesky charges that we might otherwise incur. All right. And we have a question. Can you send the check-in link? Absolutely. I'll send that one more time. Let me make sure I get that for you. And I'll also send this YAML edit in the chat so that you can copy it and follow along. Remember, like I said in YAML, all of these spaces are really relevant. So when I send when I send it in chat, I want you to just keep that in mind, that you can't just type this in. You have to actually use the appropriate spacing as well. Okay. So hopefully you can remember to do that, and your project will work. And if it doesn't, then you know how to fix that. All right. So let's now do a challenge, okay, which is our next step here. And our challenge is going to be to add a new function from scratch. So right now, our only function is that default handler function, which comes built into Node. So we're going to make a new JavaScript file called time handler. Okay, and time handler is going to simply tell us the current server time. Okay, so I'll just tell you what time it is. Pretty simple, pretty straightforward. But we're going to need to make a whole new JavaScript file for this. Okay, so every endpoint, every function, functionality that you want to add to your project, you're going to need to make a new handler file in your JavaScript. So let's do that. Let's actually go ahead and do that. Grab our VS Code, which will be our handy dandy helper here. The question here from Vinit, did you edit something in handler.js and get ignore? Yeah, so the only thing we changed in handler.js, let me just close out of something. The only thing we changed in handler.js was we just changed the message to hello serverless world, okay? So if you missed that, it was kind of a minor change, not really necessary, but just to practice editing in a safe environment here. As far as git ignore, I didn't change anything at all. Yours should still look like mine here. So just with package directories and serverless directories protected. Okay, so we'll go to serverless, and we added this plugins here. Okay, but we want to add a new capability to our project, really, and that's going to be our timehandler.js. Okay, so just create that new file called timehandler.js, and what you're going to do is you're gonna type first use strict. Okay. And we'll type module dot, oh, good Lord. Sometimes these, lines take a little bit of work because autocomplete thinks it knows what you're doing and it doesn't. So this is asynchronous function. And let's just explain really quickly why I typed what I did. So we can actually use the explain command in Copilot. That's always a cool thing to try. Okay, so as it says, the module.exports objects is used to export functions, objects, or primitives. So we are going to use the return of this. And the async keyword is specifically telling us that it's going to request some data from a third party. So as it says, fetching data from an API or reading a file without blocking the execution of the other code. All right, so it means that everything else can run in parallel while we're waiting for this feedback. In this case, we're waiting for the server to tell us what time it is. So everything else can run just as it wants to. Okay. So we'll do our return. Okay. And we'll return with these curly braces. We're going to return a status code 200, and we're going to return body json.stringify. Sorry, it just always skips ahead. Stringify, by the way, as I mentioned, is going to tell us how to convert that string into a JSON object. And so we're giving it this following a message in our body, which is just going to be the current time. So the current time is plus new. Okay, so this is just going to create a new date object and then call the time. Okay, so the time would be 2time string. All right. And actually, I want to use ISO because that is going to be our system time, our universal time format. Okay. And yeah, no problem, Vinit. Glad to hear questions from the audience. If anyone has any questions, that's what I'm here for. That's why we do this live. So yeah, definitely get those out. I'm going to also highlight this one because I want Copilot to explain this part too. Okay. So the reason why we use strict, a lot of people don't use this, but it enables strict mode. Okay. And strict mode is a way to require really strict parsing and really make sure that you declare your variables and all of your formatting is very precise. So that's the reason why we use strict mode, because when we get into production, it doesn't leave any ambiguities out, and it makes for a streamlined approach. So that's what the strict mode is for. Okay. So let's go ahead and continue here because we've finished writing our file. So what we can do is add the function to serverless. So we're going to go into our serverless .yml, and we're going to include this as a function. So we already have one function, which is our hello, but we want another one. So this one is going to be current time. Okay, so that's the name of the function. If you look at the export, what we export from time handler, we export a method called current time. So that's how we call it in the YAML file. And then we will type the handler, okay, which just tells us where we can find this thing. And then we will type events, okay? And this is really important because it's going to tell us what types of things are allowable in this call. So we'll say HTTP, so we can do HTTP requests, and the path will be the time, and the method will be get. And so get is one of many HTTP request methods, and get just retrieves data. Okay, so we're not going to send any data, we're just going to retrieve it. I'm going to copy this and paste it into the chat so that you all can see. I pasted all of this stuff in, and remember, when I put it in the chat, you have to do the work of spacing it out correctly. Okay, and so that's going to be key for YAML files, as we mentioned. So I'm going to save this YAML, and we will continue along with our workshop here. We updated serverless, so that was good. And now we can do some testing, okay? So we're going to run some local testing because we've finished adding a new endpoint. So if you run serverless offline in your terminal, what we expect to happen is that the simulation runs on port 3000. And that means that we can now run our application through localhost endpoints. So localhost :3000 gets you to our serverless project, and then we can type /dev/time. We need to type that dev because we're, remember, in save dev mode. But time is that endpoint. Remember, the path for getting the time handler going. So let's try this out. Actually, I have our code up in an Opera browser. Okay. So make that way, way, way bigger for y'all. We can do localhost :3000 /dev, which is that dev endpoint, /time. And it says this site can't be reached. And if you got this message, it's probably for the same reason why I might, because you didn't actually run your serverless. So let's actually try that first. That's a pretty important step. This is the joys of live coding, everybody. Everyone can see your mistakes. So you can't be too embarrassed if you get up here on live. You're always going to make a mistake. Okay, but that's okay. So let's go ahead and type serverless offline here. And I'll paste that command into chat so that you can all have it as well. Okay, and that's what we're typing into the terminal. And remember, to make this work, we need to make sure that the path is to our project path, which we have, and that our environment is supporting Node.js framework, which it is. So once we push online, it should give it to us. Oh, seems like the serverless offline plugin did not install. So let's try a debug here. We're going to try a debug by doing a serverless offline install. Maybe I forgot to do this. I don't know. I don't think I did, but we'll try it. Let's see, did I send it to you all? Yeah, I already sent it to you all. So right now I'm just doing this. Interesting. All right, let's try this now. Serverless offline. All right, it worked now. So I guess maybe I sent it to you all and I forgot to actually run the thing. I don't know, but you can see that it's HTTP for Lambda. So remember, someone in the chat was talking about Lambda. So here we are, listening on localhost 3002. So actually, I guess it shows 3002. I was doing some testing and some debugging, and maybe I'm taking up 3000. So let's try 3002. All right, maybe I can somehow. Okay. So let me show you what I'm seeing here. And I've never gotten this error before. So hopefully it can be good to just take a look at together. See, it looks like I'm getting this error 404. So I'm not really sure what to make of that. I'm going to try to run serverless offline again. Yeah, status codes. Yeah. Yeah, it's unfortunate. Let's see. I might be able to salvage this for us. Let's see if we can. I'm going to try and update to our serverless.yml. We'll see if that changes anything. All right. I'm not sure why we're seeing this. It does say actually an error message now that I think about it. I'll show it to you all. Here's the error message we're getting is invalid configuration encountered. Re-put everything back the way it was because I was playing around with it offline. Invalid configuration encountered. So that's a little bit strange. Gonna try to debug this a little bit. Search for my error code. We could also try our Copilot, our handy Copilot. That might work for us. Sometimes we can use the fix command for that. Oh, look at that. Seems like the events was not properly indented. Okay. I don't know if that's the real problem, but let's try it and just see what we get if we do that. Okay, that looks a lot better. See, it's good to have Copilot helping you out. Yeah, it's a YAML moment. It's a good word for that. So we had a YAML moment, but we came through it. Good job, everybody. And hopefully now you can see that we have we're hosted exactly where we think we should be. So we're hosted on our 3000 port. We're hosted at the time, and I'm gonna share my screen and show you exactly what this looks like. When you use Opera or your favorite, whatever your favorite web browser is. Looks like this. So it's a get command. So we just got information from our server. And so it's telling us that the message is that the current time is, and then it prints out this message in ISO. So that's great news for us. It means that all of our efforts, our efforts meant something, and we can keep going. So let's keep going. We're gonna add an additional query parameter to the hello function. And that's going to be this math handler.js. Okay, so this is going to be a little bit different than the handler function. So I'll go back into my VS Code and show you what I'm talking about here. Oh, it gets hard to see which one we should look at. Okay, let's look at this here. And we're going to add a file to our directory called mathhandler.js. And I'm just going to put that name in the chat for you so that you can see it. And in here, we're going to create a new handler. And we're going to try to basically make a new endpoint. So let's go ahead and check out our what we want to do here. So we want to first start by typing use strict, just like we did before. Okay. So we'll type use strict semicolon. Remember your semicolons in JavaScript, everybody. That can be a tricky one to remember. And then we'll type module.exports.add. So this is going to be our add module. And it's going to help us add these numbers together. And we'll use that same async event, asynchronous function call, or definition, I should say. And we're going to do an addition. So we're going to declare these two constants to start off, which will just be called, we'll just call them A and B. And then we will type event query string parameters. And we will set some defaults. So if they don't give us parameters, we always want to be prepared, right? Oh, we didn't get any string. Sorry, we'll just use 0, right? We don't want to just give up and return some error. So we want to know what we're going to return in that case. So we're going to now declare a new variable called sum, and we'll just make into numbers. We'll make A and B into number types in JavaScript, and then we'll just return these. So we'll return them, and remember, we're returning using this HTTP, this funny HTTP format. I know it's not the same thing as if you're dealing with just your own personal project, but this is really going to help because it's going to allow this project to be served by the cloud. Okay, so let's see. Okay, actually, this is more of a Python way to do this. I forgot. So we want to say A and B. So this is doing string in string replacements here of these placeholders with the actual variables for A, B, and the sum. I'll put a period after that, and I'll just put our comma. So this is our message here. And then we'll have a headers object. And this is just going to tell us the type. So I guess we didn't put this in the other ones, but we really should put this in to tell the, did we? I don't know. Yeah, we didn't put it in these because these are slightly less involved, but the headers will tell the computer that makes this request what type of format it can expect for this message. Okay, so it's going to be a JSON format. And great, so I'm going to copy this text and paste it into the chat so that you can follow along. Here it is. And remember to get that spacing right when you do yours. So if you have an error, first check to see if the spacing is right. And then you can ask me if you have further questions. So what we'll need to do now that this function is built is go back into our serverless.yaml, and we're going to update this. Okay, so really important to update it, and we're going to update it in really the same way that we did for our time handler. Okay, so I want you all, I'm going to leave this as an exercise just for about 1 or 2 minutes. I want you to try to update your serverless.yaml to incorporate this math plugin. Okay, so I'm just going to let you do that for a moment, and then I'll be back. All right, so I hope you were able to look into that a little bit. And I'm not actually gonna, I mean, if you want to volunteer your answer, please do. Actually, that would be great. But I'm not gonna wait and see because I don't want to waste too much time. So I'm just gonna share the answer now of how you would go about updating your serverless. So first, we want to add the function name. So we'll just go into our JavaScript and we'll look for the function name. The function name here is add, ADD. So we'll just create a add on this level 2. You can see not on level 1 where the functions tag is, but on level 2 with all the other functions. And then the next step is to add a handler, which in this case we'll type as math.add. And this is telling serverless where it can find this add endpoint. It's, oh yeah, go to math handler and then go to add. Sorry, we need to put math handler, and then go to add. And then the next, on the same level, we'll put the events. and the events specifically, we want to account for our HTTP requests, and we'll put these on levels 3 and 4 respectively. The HTTP request and then path, which is going to tell us the path of where to go. So we want to go to math and method get. So just to recap here, if the user goes to the math subfolder, subdirectory here, if it goes, localhost 3000/math, and it makes a get request from HTTP, which is what that is, then serverless will navigate us to the math handler JavaScript file, and it will specifically look for this add method, and it will call that with whatever parameters we give. So let's save this now, Control S or Command S for serverless, and we should be able to run this now. Okay, so let's try to run it. I think we probably will need to do Control C to quit the terminal. So to quit terminal, I'll just type Control C or Command C. So if you're not familiar with how I just did that, and I just cut out of this server, that's the way to do it. So let's do up arrow. I'll give that as well, up arrow, to get the last command from the terminal. So I just typed up arrow and got this last command, and I'll hit enter. So if we check this out, oh, seems like we had an error here. Did I really do the same thing I did before? It seems like I did. Goodness gracious. All right. You have to go 2 in for method and path. So let's try it again. Hopefully we don't get that same error. All right, we are golden now. So check out this path, dev/math. I'm going to try to go there, and we'll see if we can get there through our Opera browser. I'm just going to replace time with math here, and we'll see what happens. All right, so we got the sum of A and B is sum. Okay, maybe I messed this up a little bit. Oh, I see what's wrong. Should be right. Should work. Okay, I think I know what the issue is. Yeah, there's some literal. Yeah, template literal. So if you go back to our VS Code, we need to do this. So before it was like here. So A, B, comma. That's my mistake. I think it should just be A, B. And maybe we need to do, I can't honestly tell the difference between these two. If anybody else can, tell me, please. But okay, it probably has to do with this indentation here as well. So if we go to our old code, no, I think it should be fine to just do it this way. So, all right, I'll paste this back into the chat, which is the corrected version. Let's see if this works. Might be because of these strings. I think these strings, yeah, so I was giving a literal string. In JavaScript, you have to give these for this particular application. So just replace with these little confetti markers in your message, and then it should work for you. So let's try it with this change. We can go into our template, run serverless offline. And now when we run our code, and by the way, I'll send this out in Discord so that you all can see it, this code. Maybe I'll even upload it before we're finished today. The sum of 0 and 0 is 0, right? So that's great. That indicates that our code is working. Now I want you all to think about the following challenge, okay? So the challenge is going to be, how would we use this to add 3 plus 4? Right? I want you all to type into chat. It's going to be something similar to this, but some modification on this. Do a little bit of research, maybe if you need to, on get requests, and tell me, how could we use this to add 3 plus 4? All right, I'll give you a couple minutes to think about it. All right, it looks like we have one answer here. Question A equals 3 and B equals 4. That is, yeah, that's correct. So I'll show you the exact message that you want. I'll paste it into the chat. It's our whole endpoint, and then we use a question mark. I'm not sure if you've ever seen a question mark in your coding. It often indicates a region, or a language, so that the website knows which language to render. But you can use it for this purpose. So A equals 3, B equals 4 would set the variables equal to 3 and 4. So let's try that out, actually, in our Opera browser. So we take a look here. We can just paste in this new command. And you see the call updates with the sum of 3 and 4 is 7, right? So how cool is that? So we have that working now. And yeah, we can now check a mini project, all right? That's our next thing. And we're gonna try to personalize and extend this hello function to make it a little bit more fun to use, okay? So I want you to modify your hello function so that calling this path returns hello, Alice, okay? So you could put your name here, or my name, or whatever name you like, but I want you to know, how would you extract this query parameter using a function? So we're going basically in reverse. Before we built the math function, and then we said, okay, here's how we would use it. But now I'm saying, here's what I want to be able to do, and I want you to tell me how you could make it happen. So I'll give you a couple minutes to think about this on your own. All right, we have some answers here. Pineapple Pyramid says name equals hello, comma Alice. Yeah, we could definitely define that variable instead of just saying serverless world, which is a literal. We could define a variable, and Kitsune has the same sort of idea here. Just hey, why don't we try having a constant and a username? So let's try that. We will just make a new file in our VS Code. All right. Oh, just looking for my VS Code right now. I think I found it. There we are. And we will just add a new, or we'll just go into our handler.js. And we're going to add this extract, right? So we're going to do, before we do our return, we're going to do constant name or whatever you want, like a Kitsune username. That would be fine too. Query string parameters. So remember, this is exactly how we did it for the math here. And we're going to specifically look for name. And then this is cool too. I like what you did there, Kitsune, for yours, where you actually have or statement and then world, so that if it doesn't work out, we have world to look at. That is great thinking. And that's the kind of thinking that people want to see in your code. So we'll try it out. We'll actually try that out and see how it goes. I hope it works. If it not, maybe our Copilot can save us again. But then I'll put this, the rest here. Which is going to be, sorry, I'm just going to put it down here. I'm just going to use this part here. So what I did here was I turned this in. This is what I had in my code. I think I'm just going to use this because I don't want to cause any bug. But it's the same idea as what Kitsune is saying here, where we're making essentially a conditional. So this question mark is just serving as a conditional, so that if there is no string here, it just prints hello world. Okay. And so we're updating this now, right? This name parameter, and we need to account for that in our message. So just like here, yeah, everybody loves a ternary operator, good ternary operator. So good, but very good thinking there. So let's go ahead and fill our replacement here. And we'll just save. And that should be it. I mean, I don't think we need to do anything else to make this work. Let's try it out with our server. Okay, so it seems so far to be working. And then all we should need to do is just go to our localhost. Let's see if this works. Oh, goodness gracious. I guess I forgot something here. Okay. Dang it, I always forget something. Okay. Yeah, I used the darn template literal again. So yeah, sorry everybody. I always forget to do these little confetti things. I guess because I've just been writing a lot of Python lately, which is somehow not making me have that issue, but hopefully this should work now. All right, so now you should be able to see it. Mine is still not that happy with me, funny enough, but it should be. I'm not sure what exactly is wrong here, but it should work for you on your end. Go back to my slides here. Yeah, when I type this, I get a strange, it might be because I'm in dev mode, I'm not sure. Or maybe I need to update my serverless. That's probably what I need to do. Yeah, definitely that's what it is. So let's go to our serverless. So, is my VS Code showing? No, it's not. So if we go to our VS Code, we should be able to check out our handler here, handler.hello. But if we want, we can allow us to get the following. Just like we did with our other functions. And if we run that, we should be able to get what we want. So now we can go back to our Opera browser. And we can see that we got an output, hello Alice, for our name Alice. I'll do my name and it changes to my name. And if we don't type anything, just like Kitsune suggested, we get hello world. So maybe I should have changed that a little bit, but it is working now. So yeah, forgot to add the template literal as usual. And I also forgot to update our serverless.yaml, but now we should be in business. So yeah, that's sort of what I have for that. And then I'm going to give you some more stuff to work on. And here's our next challenge. Create a new endpoint that reverses the name we provide. So I want this endpoint to be so that we can do reverse and give it a name, and it'll give the backwards of that. And I'm just giving you a hint. I mentioned a few functions that may or may not be helpful. So let's try and do this little quiz here. Give it a shot on your own, and then we'll come back and do it ourselves. All right. I am super curious to see if you all have any result yet. So please feel free to paste that into the chat. I'll give you a minute to do that. All right, so I don't quite see any answers, but that's okay. I can show you all how I would approach this problem at least. So let's try it out on the VS Code editor. All right, just cut out of our server here because we don't want to be in there right now. All right, so let's see here. So we'll type a new handler here. So we're going to make a reverse handler. Okay, and we will of course use strict. And we will type module.exports.reverse async event. And within this, we're going to first just get our names, query parameters. So remember, we have a way of doing this. We can type event.query string parameters and assign that as the name. And then if we don't get that, which is, remember, this is our ternary operator here, we can just define the name. I'm going to make it empty, honestly, for this one. Okay, so we'll just make an empty list here, and string. And so then we'll reverse the string, just as the Copilot suggests, and Copilot suggests exactly what you want to do here. So I named the functions that you might want to think about using here. First is .split. So .split, what it does is it transfers a string into it converts a string into an array. And it does that based on a delimiter. So if you were to give it commas, it would make new elements for each comma separated portion of the string. But with an empty list here, it just does it for every single character. So all the characters will be put into an array that then gets reversed, because reverse does work on an array, and then joined back up again along the empty strings. So it just gets basically swapped around. And then we can just type return status code 200 and have the message print out just like here it does. I want to modify this code a little bit, though, the one that was given here. Specifically, I want to put a header here. So we can put headers, content type application.json, just to make sure that the user knows that this is coming in as a JSON. And that should work. So let's try this out. The one thing we need to do is remember to update our serverless.yaml. So this is something I've been struggling with, I guess, but let's copy and paste this so that I have less of a likelihood to mess it up. We'll call this reverse. The handler is the reverse handler. Dot reverse was the name of our function. And the path we'll use is reverse, and we should be able to use this get again. So let's try that out. See if it does work. Looks like the endpoint generated. So let's try our Opera browser out and try to look for this. By the way, I'm just using Opera as any random browser. You could use your own browser, of course, here. So we want to type reverse. And let's try it out with our Alice example. Oops. And it tells us the reverse of Alice is Isola. Kind of a funny name. I've never heard of anyone named Isola, but if you're named Isola, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to offend you, but yeah, there you go. So yeah, okay, that works. And let's go ahead and sort of wrap up now. So what we can do here is do a little wrap-up quiz, and I want to give you one wrap-up question, which is what command runs your function locally, okay? So serverless is meant for building in AWS or Google Cloud or whatever you want, but what command did we use today to run our things locally? Hopefully it shouldn't be too much of a stretch because we used it a lot today. And Vinit said it exactly right. We used serverless offline, okay? So that's a great resource to know about because we got to do all this testing for free. Excuse me. All right, so that's gonna basically wrap it up for us today. I'm gonna show because we do have Jocelyn's stream coming up soon, and I don't want to overlap too much with that stream because if we keep going with the serverless architecture, we could end up at a buzzer beater. But I will say that in the next stream with simulating IoT remote control system, that sounds really fun. So I would stay around if I could. And we can work more on serverless probably later today because we actually have intro to Kubernetes part 1 coming up later. So this is another stream I'll be running later this afternoon. Or whatever time zone it is for you, I'll be running in about 3 hours. And we're going to go over the basics of Kubernetes. And before we get a hold of that, if we have some extra time after we finish Kubernetes part 1, I might actually go back to serverless. Okay, yeah, so K8. So we can talk about that in our next workshops. So it should be really fun. All right. So let's go ahead and end it here. But thank you all for joining. It was really a pleasure. And I hope to see you at our next workshop. But stay tuned for Jocelyn's stream next. Bye, everybody. Thanks for logging on.